I've seen enough, said God one day. He sat on his throne on high. He never missed a trick, you see, from right up there in the sky. I've given them 2,000 years to get things sorted out, but it seems to me they've no idea of what I'm all about. I sent my lad down at the start. He's a Yorkshire god, this one. What's funny about that? I sent my lad down at the start to show them all the way, but the ones in charge got worried hearing what he'd got to say. Just kind to one another be was all my lad had said. But bosses got to jitters and nailed him to a cross instead. A few kept message going, spreading stories far and wide about how my lad had risen up soon after he had died. But just like Chinese whispers do, some details they did change. While some of the stories weren't too bad, some of them were strange. One said I'd send a plague of frogs if folks did not behave. Perhaps that's why the French are bad, because frogs' legs they all crave. Another said the sea had part to let some folks across. Now I may be very clever, but of seas I'm not the boss. Trouble really started when crafty plans were laid by some blokes who'd realised there's livings to be made. They knew folks liked the idea of one almighty being to help them in the times of need, all hearing and all seeing. So these blokes all started talking posh and took to wearing frocks. They said, us lot at shepherds, and you lot, you're our flocks. Now I never thought it would catch on, but it did, it worked a treat. Shepherds had big houses built where all the flocks could meet. They said, no expense should be spared to make these houses grand. They had them built in hundreds, called churches all over land. Now churches weren't for them, of course, they said they were for me. But actually, they owned them and lived in them for free. Now most houses had big towers and some had bells on top. They'd ding and dong for hours, it seemed they'd never stop. Other towers had no bells to call their flocks all out. They simply found a loud-mouthed chap to go up top and shout. It really was a clever plan, and so it came to pass. The flocks would go there every week and chuck in their spare brass. The shepherds wrote their stories down in one big holy book. They sold millions of copies so everyone could look. Now these stories spread all over the world to every kind of folk, and book it were translated into every language spoke. I ended up with lots of names because shepherds didn't agree. Each had their different houses, all supposedly for me. But though all names were different, one thing remained the same. Shepherds took all flocks' spare brass and spent it in my name. Now shepherds were a crafty lot and thought up lots of tricks to make their own flocks different, make sure they didn't mix. So some flocks never said a word, while some flocks rant and rave. Some flocks never cut their hair, while others their heads shave. Some flocks bathe in rivers to wash their sins away, while others kneel down onto the ground to pray 5 times a day. Now some flocks climb a mountain to all their sins atone, while others march around monuments all throwing little stones. Some will eat my lad's body, well, bits of bread instead, then drink his blood to wash it down. It's really wine, what's red. Some flocks have some days each year when they eat out all day, but they stuff their faces every night so they all end up okay. Some flocks never sin at all, it would be wrong they say, while others sin and then confess, then sin again next day. Some flocks don't allow their wives by others' eyes be seen. Their women live all covered up just looking through a screen. I don't suppose there's any harm in all these things they do, but one flock trims a wee bit off. Don't fancy that, do you? The saddest outcome of this mess, and it is happening still, each flock thinks that they're right, and t'other flocks they kill. It seems so sad that all these flocks and shepherds can't agree on just one name and just one way they all can think of me. In some lands, some flocks, even though they call me by its same name, still fight and kill each other because they way they praise, not same. One of them, one day each year, will march through t'other's streets to celebrate past wars they'd won and gloat o'er those they'd beat. I must admit, I feel ashamed of all these goings on. I should have learned my lesson when they crucified my son. I built a lovely world, controlled by nature, to a plan. Of all the creatures I put there, by far the worst is man. If only they could realise their differences mean nought, that kind to one another be is what I'm all about. Until to all the different flocks and shepherds I'm the same, I can't go down to help them till they call me by same name. And when they do, they'll realise all flocks in all lands, the help they're asking me for is there in their own hands. The answer they've been seeking will be so clear to see, if they'll do what my lad told them, kind to one another be. Thank you.